Firstly, thank you so much for allowing us to conduct this interview with you. And as the chairman of the Dominica National Reparations Committee, what inspired you to join the reparations movement?
Well, thank you for the interview. It's always good to have discussions and things that matters. The thing is, I've been involved in youth organizations in my community now from as long as I can remember. So I guess that was kind of the motivating factor to find about the whole things, the whole Black Power struggle. I was involved in that, interested in learning certain things, and there are certain people who impacted it, like Francisco Esper when he came to the university. He was able to, we had sessions with him, and he was able to guide us as to the whole Black Power movement and the works of Rosie Douglas and Pierre Charles. So these are people that growing up I linked with, and it just became automatic. I was continuing in the struggle. So the reparations thing really came up. I really got involved in it after attending a meeting in 2013 when the CARICOM heads of government decided that they're going to form a CARICOM Reparations Commission. So there was somebody else who had to go, but because he couldn't make it, so I fitted in. I went there. When I came back, initiated the Dominica Reparations Committee in 2014. And from there, I've been involved. So that's chairman since 2014, and I'm there holding the fort with a group of people, both men and women, all able to do what they have to do. So together, we're just trying to put the message across and build up the awareness of reparations. But I want to say that we're satisfied so far that it's picking up quite nicely.
Okay, I'm happy to hear that. Now, how significant is the matter of reparations to the collective advancement of our region? And do you think it's attainable in our lifetime?
Very important, the struggle for reparations is an ethical, just, and necessary struggle. The reparations in itself, in essence, we're asking for, basically reparations means to repair the damage that was done. But the damage that was done is basically the transatlantic slavery, the racialized system of chattel slavery, and we also pushing the platform of native genocide because in our region we have the Kalinagos and the St. Vincent. So Dominica is in a unique position because we're fighting for reparations for enslaved Africans and also for the genocide that was committed against the Kalinago people.
Thank you. Now, as you stated, the CARICOM Reparations Commission was formed in 2013, and soon after, when you became a member, you set up the committee down here in Dominica, which we are grateful for. Now, the following year in July, that'll be 2014, at the 35th meeting of the heads of government, yes, that discussion was allowed, but they also a draft notice of complaint regarding slavery and indigenous genocide was prepared by NEWSI, which is one of the top legal firms in the UK.
Mm-hmm.
Now, interestingly, when I read up on them, I discovered that they also acted on behalf of Kenyan nationals during, the Kenyan emergency in the 1950s at the hands of the British colonial administration. And I went further in 2013, which is funny, everything happens around the same time. The UK Foreign Secretary, William Hague, in an address, apologized to those who suffered during the emergency period, which is 1952 to 1963. And he explained the settlement, which include over 5,000 claimants and an award of £19.9 million, as well as construction of a memorial in Nairobi to the victims of torture and ill treatment during the colonial period. Now, Secretary Hague, he said that the British government sincerely regrets that these abuses took place and that they marred Kenya's progress towards independence. Torture and ill treatment are an abhorrent violations of human dignity which we unreservedly condemn. Now that's pretty interesting, and it ties in to one of the points of CARICOM's 10-point plan for reparatory justice, which says it calls for a formal apology as opposed to statements of regrets that some nations have issued. And furthermore, Secretary Haig, he continued, we continue to deny liability on behalf of the government and British taxpayers for the actions of the colonial administration in respect of the claims, and indeed, the courts have made no finding of liability against that government in this case, right? We do not believe that claims relating to events that occurred overseas outside direct British jurisdiction more than 50 years ago can be resolved satisfactorily through the courts without the testimony of key witnesses that is no longer available. Now, in light of his statements that were made on behalf of the UK government, what is the status of our claim? Is there any tangible progress that has been made since 2014?
The interesting point you made is expression of regret.
Yes.
Now, in the CARICOM 10-point plan, which was crafted through the CARICOM, the Center for Reparations Research, which was set up as part of this movement, the first item is a full formal apology. That's what we're asking for. So the expression of regret of the British government doesn't tie in first, because you can express regret,
right,
but you're not accepting liability.
Yes.
So the question of Lady was engaged because of that fact you mentioned, that they were successful in Kenya. So in looking for a legal firm, they were the ones who came up with this research. So Lady is engaged by the CARICOM Reparations Commission to take on this case, because this struggle is at different fronts. You have the legal front, which Lady is fighting, and also we have the diplomatic front. They're using all the diplomats in the region, in the United Nations. We have the advocacy, information dissemination. So it's an all-encompassing strategy. So based on the statement that you read, you can see clearly that the British government has no intention of issuing a full formal apology. Letters have been written to them from the CARICOM Reparations Commission, written to Britain, France, all the colonial powers, and none of them have officially. So that is one of the 10-point plan which we're still seeking, and the British as a government. Now, interestingly, some other organizations, like some universities, the University of Glasgow, where it was proven, so Hilary Beckles is the chairperson of the commission.
Yeah.
Well, he was able, for his research and his numerous talks at England and various universities, to show them that they benefited from slave trade. And they accepted it, and they had agreed to make 20 million pounds available to the University of the West Indies to go towards education development. So to us, that is a form of reparations from university. There are other universities and also insurance companies like Lloyd's in England who have accepted that they have benefited because the slave ships have to be insured. So it's something that happens for generations. So why the British representative may be saying that, oh, it's so long it happened. But he must remember, we want to remind him that the slave owners of England got paid for the slaves they had in Dominica and the other parts of the Caribbean. They got paid by the British government. And the slaves themselves were the origins of labor who actually added value to ensure that they made the profits. Up to this present time, they have not been paid. So they benefited, they got paid because they only got paid because there was a legal aspect to it where they legislated and said that slaves were deemed as property. So if it's your property, which could be compared to any other property, like you have a car, you have a camera.
Yes.
So if it's my property and somebody takes it from me, then it's on law. So once you deem them as that, so from the legal aspect, so what they did, they covered all aspects, from legal, educational, banking, all aspects to make sure So they got paid, and it's noted as to the amount they get. So we're saying, if you get paid out, the enslaved Africans, descendants have not been paid. So we want to repair the wrong. And in essence, that is the call for.
Yes, and that is a very interesting point you made when they legislated that point. Because even back in 1833, when the Parliament was debating that very bill, they came to an agreement, on a understanding among themselves, that, as you said, not only are the slaves assets or piece of property, but they went further and made the point that property cannot, is not entitled to compensation, to property compensation. So I guess perhaps that mindset is one of the barriers we have. Would you agree?
Well, it can be a barrier at the same time, immobilizing and developing our moral aspect, where you're appealing to people, information dissemination, people understanding, people coming together for one purpose, and because of this mass movement.
Yes.
Now, the key thing with reparations is because this struggle is happening in so many different countries at the same time. Like you have in our region, you have in America, you have in Africa, you have in Latin America, in some areas, Brazil, there were slaves in Haiti. So because the reparation movement is picking up steam, and the United Nations has recognized the importance, and they have declared from 2015 to 2023 as the decade of peoples of African descent. So they could have only done that because of the level of advocacy that's being done within the United Nations. Africa Day is recognized all over the world. There's a day of peoples of indigenous descent. So what's happening is through United Nations, more and more recognition is happening, and all the other islands. In fact, very importantly, the role of the CARICOM Reparations Commission, or the movement, assisted the American reparation movement in picking up, because there are a lot of collaboration, and so the rebels will be always being called to give lectures, and it was always focusing on the 10-point plan. In fact, the 10-point plan, which is our template, is being widely recognized and used in America and Africa. Now, some other aspects of it, the first aspect is the full formal apology, but we can add repatriation as part of it.
Yes.
Indigenous People Development Program, cultural institutions, assistance, and bringing them to where they are. Illiteracy eradication, African Knowledge Program, technology transfer, very important.
Yes.
Debt cancellation. Debt cancellation is included there because after colonialism, after emancipation, some of the countries got independent. But because of the whole system, when we started our development, we didn't start on an equal footing. Because they had gotten paid, we got nothing. They had to start.
Yes, that is understandable.
So the cancellation is part of it. Yeah.
Okay, great. Now, I'd like to go back to Foreign Secretary William Hague during that very same address. He also stated that we do not believe that this settlement establishes a precedent in relation to any other form of British colonial administration. Now, we know it was specific to the Kenyan situation, but curious how it applies to us, because he also went further. He said the country's future, which is Kenya, but we could have, presume it applies to us as well, belongs to a post-independence generation. Now, in regards to this post-independence generation, which may like myself fall into, there is a level of distrust that can be observed, especially among our local opposition parliamentarians. And the distrust is in the government's ability to responsibly manage any reparation settlement based on allegations of corruption, lack of access to information, public participation, and justice. Now, do you think this casts a dark shadow on the movement both here and across the region?
Not really. This thought of this line of thinking really is a more recent pronouncement. I guess as people seeing the reparation movement picking up steam, and they starting to see things happening. Then they start focusing on changing focus and say, well, yeah. So when you get the money, who's going to manage it or who's going to manage? Now, exactly why the 10-point plan states is not just a question of just accepting the money. All these other aspects give a holistic view, a holistic path for development of what was missed or what was denied over a period of time. So this question of whichever government in power, because the thing is there's no time frame as to when the government will agree, apologize, and you have to quantify the amount, and that is a difficult thing. How can you quantify the amount that of reparations that we need? So when we take this holistic approach, we think that it's a more uniform way to distribution of and because at the end of the day, what you want for the reparation is one is the apology for the people, the descendants of the colonial powers, to realize that their forefathers did wrong.
Yes.
And for the descendants of the enslaved Africans to understand that, hey, that is due to you. But now the problem is, you have an internal struggle. Other people do not think that, they think they say, so long that happened, just leave it alone. But we cannot leave it alone because it's such a crime against humanity. I mean, and up to this present moment, 400 years plus, we still see the impact of the colonialism. We still see the impact. So it can't be a thing that we should just forget. When you talk about Africa, people have to understand the history of Africa started before slavery. Africa had mighty kingdom. Africa has contributed to all aspects of life. I mean, when you talk about medicine, the father of medicine, or the grandfather, great-grandfather, was called Imhotep. That was the man who, in terms of medicine, initiated the concept of medicine and diagnosis of disease. That we had Hippocrates, which came long after, but everybody followed the Hippocrates. That's what we as medical people, but the information of Imhotep way behind, that information is not being put forward. You'll be surprised the amount of inventions that was done by Black people, but again, this information has not been put. The camera, the railroad, the electricity, I mean, just name it. You could just Google Black inventions and you'll see the amount of things that we use every day. But just that because they control the system, again, the question of patent, they can control the patent and use the inventions of Black people and pass it like it's their own. So.
Yes, and it's very interesting to say that the legacy of slavery is so far-reaching and so broad, and that the father of medicine was one of our very own. And then we continue to suffer health-wise in the Caribbean. And even so Hillary Beckles recently was lamenting the fact of the addiction Barbados has to sugar and salt. You know, I guess presuming targeting the sugar plantations from before. And it was amazing. He's stating that Barbados is the amputation capital of the world. I mean, that is fascinating in that sense. And it's very, very nice that the CARICOM has included the health aspect concerns in the 10-point plan. And another point I noticed, which we don't talk about generally, is the psychological rehabilitation for healing and repair of African descendants populations.
That is key because, as you said, I mean, 400 years plus, you might figure as soon as slavery happened, you're supposed to be able to move about freely. That's why we always have people like Bob Marley and people coming up with songs that telling you, liberate yourself from mental slavery. So that's where the psychological aspect, because these psychological wounds go down so deep.
Yes.
And they last so long. It makes you feel that you don't want to know about yourself or feel proud that, hey, I only tell them that I'm a descendant of a proud generation. I mean, we have mighty civilizations in Africa. I mean, in the pyramids, I mean, the level of technology that has gone into this thing. And that happened even before the Europeans came. So all these things were happening even before. But so we encourage people to You have to find out about yourself. A Chinese will never deny that you're a Chinese or Indian. And they know the Chinese will come then, they'll do what they have to do. They eat their foods, they'll link their people, they'll know their history. For us, we always have to figure out we have to look at some other role models. But the role models are within us. We have examples. We have heroes, we have examples of people who have excelled. I mean, we have Dr. Etienne, head of power. We have people who are in prestigious positions all over the world. And these are people that came from us, some of them we grew up, and see how far they have reached. So,
and as you mentioned Bob Marley and the whole birth of reggae music, and we can view it as our rebel music, revolutionary in that sense. So I guess we have to have some degree of appreciation for the Rastafarian people and movement. And in recognizing, appreciating that subculture, maybe it's about time we repeal that heinous act we had in Dominica. It has been repealed?
Yeah, I mean the Dread Act?
Yes.
Yeah, the Dread Act is actually repealed. In fact, about a few months ago, I had that discussion and I found out and it has been repealed. But I'm glad you bring up the point because we have to give tribute and pay tribute to the Rastafari because they were the ones who, in spite of everything, kept the whole Africa concept alive, the way of living, grow what you eat what you grow, simple lifestyle, just praise Jah, Selassie or whatever. But it was a rebel movement with a recognition of knowing thyself, appreciating the land, the culture, nature, and just living in tandem with nature.
Yes, and our connection to Africa
to Africa and the spiritual world. So their role was very, very important.
Yes.
And I think it's been recognized more and more. At one time, you're going to go to school with dreadlocks. But right now, it's sure to go to school with dreadlocks. So it shows that the society has appreciated, and it's just testament to the fact how we can initiate something. It will take time and it can pick up. The same way in the reparations talk came about, people wondering about the reparation. Right now, it's a different. People are finding out more and people are actually joining and seeing the benefits of this struggle for reparation.
Okay, and with the whole Rastafarian movement, the connection to Africa, the love and admiration for Ethiopia and the great Haile Selassie. That comes to another point, fits in to the 10-point plan, which is repatriation, which points out the legal right of the descendants of more than 10 million Africans noted here, who were stolen from their homes and forcibly transported to the Caribbean as enslaved, chattel, and property to return to their homeland. So I guess that's another argument in the whole reparations.
Yes, this is a powerful thing because the Rastafarians have been always calling for that repatriation and go back to Africa. In fact, Ghana, a year or two ago, had what they call a year of return. They actually opened the country to all who descendants who want to come back. It's just a pity nobody from Dominica took on the challenge, but a lot of people from America and other places actually went back and resettled in Ghana. I think they may have another repetition. But again, see, deliberate propaganda is part of the tool that is used. The psychological aspect, where the images we get of Africa growing up in films, in all kind of ways, is always a negative image. The positiveness of Africa in terms of its development and its achievement is never highlighted. So right now with the television, Google, and information available, people are actually saying, hold on now, but what they portray of Africa is not that. I mean, Africa has cities that are developed and just had buildings, just as big as any skyscraper in America. So because of the information highway right now is open, that propaganda tool is been lessened because people can actually go and verify and see that the images they portray of Africa, the negative images, it's the same concept with Haiti. Close to us there. Our perception of Haiti was actually shaped. Because Haiti was never given a chance. Haiti is the first Ireland or country to have its own state, the first state to be owned by black people. I mean, to sell over here and they selling. They defeated the mighty Napoleon. The same Napoleon received in history books as a mighty warrior. He was defeated. And then he gave the independence in 1804. But the thing is, Haiti was never allowed to shine, because if Haiti was allowed to develop, then the other islands would watch Haiti as an example. So America, England, all the colonial powers came together, applied pressure. So that's why people talking about Haiti, the situation in Haiti is not of Haiti's making. They were never allowed to develop. Haiti has so much potential, but it's just that the pressures are not there. In fact, after Haiti got the independence, they had to pay France almost 90 million francs at that time. And it's just recently, they just finished pay that. So it's just impossible. So part of our struggle too is to let people understand that Haiti needs respect. I mean, defeat Napoleon, the first black state in our history. And that revolution inspired so many other areas that were not liberated, I would say. So it gave them a chance and say, yeah, I can, if you can do it, you can do it. It's the same way in Ethiopia. There's a famous battle of Adwa, where they defeated the Mussolini, the mighty Italian army. It reversed the concept of the superiority of the white man. Because at that time, all the countries were colonized, and so after that victory in Adwa, the other enslaved African realized you're a colonial country, you're like, well, if Ethiopia can do it, you can do it too. So the same way they say, well, if they can do it, you can do it. So these are like inspiration now.
Yes.
Now Grenada again close by. When Grenada had the revolution, Grenada would never have been allowed to develop, because Grenada would have served as an example, as a beacon to a different form of governance. So you have to understand, anytime you have this struggle, there's always methods to try to keep it down, and they use the media, they use whatever main structures to hold us down. But we're rising.
Yes, it is very, very interesting, and I really enjoy speaking with you. And the whole reparations, but it seems so worthwhile to engage in, to learn more. And I think we need more discussions like that, because we can use the plan, as you say, as a guide for our own development, and maybe a sense of healing as we go forward. So I don't.
In fact, that point you make this is after our last Caribbean Reparations Commission retreat, because the way the structure is, the Caribbean Reparations Commission now, each country has its what they call the National Reparations Committee. And the chairperson of each of these committee is part of the Caribbean Reparations Commission. In fact, they have taken a decision to expand it and include representation from the regional organization of Rastafari, the indigenous people organization representative. So it's kind of broadening up the Caribbean, Pan-American movement, Pan-African movement. Yeah. So all that part of it now. To zero in on Dominica, we were formed in 2013, and we have initiated a few things. We had a panel discussion, we have been to the schools, we have been to the colleges. In fact, every Black History Month, we go out to the schools. And interestingly, in 2019, because of the COVID, in fact, the schools organized their own activities for Black History Month. And that was like a nice feeling to us, that hey, so only time you go in and talk to the schools, now the schools realize they couldn't do it on their own because of the information. So there are certain things that we're calling for. We think Black history should be taught in schools, and Kalinago history should be taught in schools. We think we recommend naming and renaming. There are a lot of names, colonial names, that we really need to get rid of, and naming our people. We have more than enough people. In fact, we have more people we can name after than things to name them after, because there are a lot of people who have excelled in all fields in Dominica, sports, culture. So we call it for that we have two important buildings that we want to. The Barracoon building, that maybe is the only one left. The Barracoon building, that's when the slaves came. They replaced the Barracoon buildings right by the ferry terminal. And then they were cleaned up and taken to see Old Market Plaza there. That place is historic, a lot of blood flowed. So we think these two places should be restored to the original. Or if you know you're renovating, but keep that original history. Because that's really the slaves were taken out, oiled up, put to for sale. And the Negma, when they catch them, they used to bring them there and behead them right there in the public to kind of send a message to the others, hey, you know. But that didn't stop. That didn't stop because we know the history of Dominica and the Maroon movement. So we have to pay tribute to a lot of people, the Maroons, both male and females, the Kalinago people who very importantly kept Dominica alive for us. The Kalinagos and the South Africans and Maroons worked together because at the time when the colonials came, they realized, boy, these people, we cannot delay them. You know, they figure they can't conquer them. So they just technically leave them alone. Because the Kalinagos were there before. They knew all the trails, so they were able to guide the African brothers. So that was this collaboration from that time. And we say now that now we need that kind of collaboration. So the indigenous people play an important role in the whole African struggle. So it's a combined struggle. That's why you state for genocide, reparations, and reparations for enslaved Africans.
Now, recognizing the role the indigenous community, the Kalinago people played during those days, do you think at some point the whole issue of there being a reservation, or as we call it, Kalinago territory, will be revisited? Because that is a subsection the British did, am I correct? So in that sense, are we continuing the works of the colonizers, like the framework they set up, or do you think soon, one day, we would revisit that?
That is an interesting aspect, it is being revisited. In fact, just recently, a decision was taken to set up a Kalinago Development Fund. Now, this is significant because in the Kalinago, the lands are communal owned. So you can't say, well, you can go anywhere, get a piece of land, build a house. But the thing is, you cannot say, well, to get a certificate of title, which you can use maybe to develop the house or take a loan. No, this development fund is so critical. It's a fund is set up and you can actually use your property as security to get funds to further develop either your house or if you want to go into a little project. So that was set up recently and that is I think
So just a quick question. As they unable to have like a traditional certificate or title, how do you identify your property? Is it going to be surveyed and have a letter from the council? The council,
the Kalinago council. Person goes to them, apply, identify the area, they check it out, and they decide, okay. So you set up your thing, and then they have it mapped out. And so for the fund, you make the application using whatever. Well, we call that a title, but technically it's tantamount to the same thing. But I want to state that the Kalinago nation has come a long way. I mean, when you look at the perception of people before and now, if you look at the first specialist in skincare dermatology, it's Kalinago man, Dr. Warren Sanford. I mean, you have Kalinagos in law, in engineering, in all spheres. In fact, we, under the guidance of Civil Liberators, offered 20 scholarships per year, strictly for the Kalinago people. And quite a few has graduated and are contributing to the society. So that is part of the recognition and the point you made about the whole perception of the reservation. I think that is changing and gradually once they are incorporated into the normal day-to-day life. In fact, you have the Kalinago minister and you also have a Department of Culinary Affairs. So they have at least a representation that even greater than most other constituencies where you have one party rep. So they have a party rep, and they still have a Department of Culinary Affairs plus the council. So with these three organizations working for the council, I mean, tremendous progress is being made.
Okay, so then the representation is
Yeah.
really present and visible.
Very present. The only thing I would love to see is the name change from Dominica to Waitukubuli. It should have been done earlier, but it's not today. Because Waitukubuli is the original name. Tolizabodi, that's all, and this Dominica. And we should have just do a complete thing, but when you put the name Dominica, it's still Dominica name singing to the colonial name. Because the place was discovered on a Sunday, Domingo, Dominica. Now it's clear now that erased from the books that Christopher Columbus did not discover Dominica. So I go to school in primary school reading that, but right now that's off the books because you cannot discover something that's there. If you come in with people there, you can't say you discover.
Well, now you sound saying people of African descent enjoy in more ways than one. And that's why we term it cultural appropriation. And sometimes, non-African people get credit for the work done.
It's collaboration.
Yes. And as you say, more awareness, more education. And just one last question before we go. Does the National Reparations Committee have any plans for Africa Day this year?
We had a meeting recently last week, and because of the COVID restrictions again, but we think what normally used to happen is the House of Niabinge would have their annual match for Africa Day, match around the city. But we think, we met and we think we want to have probably, from our point of view, probably panel discussion or two, and probably have an activity in the Old Market Plaza, maybe one activity. The host will be having a meeting Wednesday. I'm supposed to be there. I hope I can make it so we can discuss what plans they have. Because the only ones who really will organize it. There's a particular year where at least 5 organizations for the House of Niabinge, we have the Public Library, we have the Reparations Committee, and then there are 2 other groups that came together, and I think that was one of the best African Day celebrations we have had. We used it. We had the All Saints students doing some dancing, singing, and modeling. I mean, that one was just tremendous. I always remember this one. But we have something for Africa Day, so very soon.
Okay, well, we look forward to it. And we do appreciate Dr. Dublin providing such wonderful insights into the work of the Dominica National Reparations Committee. And I hope that all of us, in one way or the other, can express interest and support of their work. Thank you, Dr. Dublin.
Thank you very much.